Up first, we have, of course, Maria Konnikova, and she's a Russian-born American writer and journalist. She's the author of the bestseller Mastermind, How to Think Like Sherlock Holmes, and she's a contributing writer for The New Yorker, which recently ran an excerpt of her book, her new book, How Stories Deceive. Her writing has appeared online and in numerous print publications, including The New York Times, The Atlantic Wired, Scientific American, and The New Yorker. And she's going to be speaking to us about her amazing new book, The Confidence Game, and the insight she's gleaned on the psychology of both the con man and the victims. Thank you.
Here's my first test. Can I get the mic out? I did it. Wouldn't it have been a great con to actually, tape it in there so that you can't move it and tell me to struggle with it for the beginning of the evening? Anyway, thank you guys all so much for coming. And I just want to take a few minutes to talk a little bit about the confidence game. Now, I get two questions that are very closely related whenever I say that I've written a book about con artists, and I used to get them when I said I was writing a book about con artists. And they are basically, what's the inspiration? Have you been conned? So two questions that go back to back. Everyone assumes that I've had a terrible experience with a con artist, and so I've decided to take him down. And so let me answer that first question, which is, I have no idea if I've ever been conned. And that's one of the things that I learned, and one of the most fascinating things I learned as I was researching this book. Con artists are so incredibly good at what they do that many victims don't ever realize they've been victims. We are so good at conning ourselves, and we're so good at maintaining belief in the fact that, oh, I could never, ever have fallen for a con, that we end up ignoring the times that we've been scammed. So I'm assuming it's happened to me, but you know what? It's nice to be in blissful ignorance. And I've had, so the day after my book came out, I got a number of really irate emails, and they say don't read Amazon reviews, but sometimes you kind of read Amazon reviews. So there was an Amazon review that came out right away, which said, I haven't read the book, but it's terrible, because the subtitle says why we fall for it, and I would never fall for a con artist. How can the author presume that we fall for it? There are lots of people out there like me who would never fall for one of these scams. And I think that that's a belief that a lot of us hold dear. And because of that, we end up not realizing when people take advantage of us, because it's so contrasts with the opinion of ourselves, the very high, might I add, opinion of ourselves that we hold in our minds. Because no one wants to say, you know what, I fell for something, and I was stupid, I believed. And I think part of that is in our society. That's one of the reasons that I wrote this book. We have such a negative bias against victims of con artists. We really respect victims of a lot of other crimes. We say, oh my God, poor thing, that happened to you, that's so terrible. When it's the victim of a con, we say, how could you have been so stupid? You sucker. We really blame the victim. We say, oh, you must be gullible. You must be stupid. You must be greedy. You can't fool an honest man. All of these things are absolutely wrong, and I go into the book why none of these things are actually true about victims. Victims can be incredibly intelligent, they can be skeptical, they can be the smartest people, the best educated people, they can be con artists. One of the best pieces of evidence that anyone can be conned is that con artists can be conned. So I write about this guy in the book, Oscar Hartzell, and he perpetrated one of the longest running frauds in the early 20th century. He said that he had discovered the long lost Drake fortune. So Sir Francis Drake, everyone remembers him from your history lessons, right? Pirate, privateer, buccaneer, whatever you want to call him, under Queen Elizabeth, sailed the high seas, got a lot of treasure. So you know what happened when he died? He didn't have an heir, but he left a lot of money. And this guy had tracked down his lost treasure. But it was being mired in the British bureaucracy because, of course, they wanted to keep it secret and they wanted to keep the money for themselves. But he had found a way through the red tape. And if you gave him just a little bit of cash, you would get your money back so many times over. I don't even know how many hundreds of times, thousands, millions. Do you know how much a treasure from the 1500s is worth today? Guys, I mean, it's crazy how much money that's worth. And you know what? He was so good at this. He established the Sir Francis Drake Foundation. He set up offices all over the country. He went to camp out in London because, of course, the person who's fighting for this fortune has to be in London. And he got people to give him hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions at the end of the day. And here he is in London, living the high life while people keep wiring him money so that he keeps fighting this legal battle. And he sees an ad in a newspaper, and the ad is for a seance. And he says, oh, something about it catches his eye. He goes. And oh my God, he knows that psychics are total BS. They don't exist. He knows it's a scam. But he's found the one psychic who's real. She's amazing. She's incredible. He starts going to her. She is good. She not only starts milking him for money because she realizes she's got a good one, she hires a private investigator to follow him, realizes what he's up to, the scam he's running, starts blackmailing him as well. So he ends up losing tens of thousands of dollars that he's scamming from his victims to this psychic in London. Everyone can get scammed with the right con artist in the right circumstances. And I think that that's something that really bears keeping in mind. Now, in terms of my inspiration for the book, it actually wasn't a real-world scam. It was David Mamet's House of Games. How many of you have seen it? Awesome. And everyone who hasn't seen it, get up right now, go and watch. It's amazing. And the amazing thing about it, it's Lindsay Krause's most wonderful performance, totally undervalued. But she plays the victim. She's a psychologist. She has written a best-selling book. She actually sees patients for a living. So if you think if anyone can know about human nature, it would be someone like her. And she thinks she's in on this elaborate con. She knows that these people are con artists. She thinks they're giving her an illicit glimpse into their life. Since a lot of you haven't seen the movie, I'm not going to ruin the ending for you, except David Mamet. It does not end well. And I saw that and I said, wow, if she can be a victim, anyone can be a victim. Obviously, David Mamet was writing fiction, but is this true in real life? Can anyone be a victim? And that was what inspired this book, because no one had ever explored that. And what I ended up discovering was that, yes, everyone can be a victim, but two, that's okay. I wrote the book to give people permission to admit to being conned, to tell them that this is a fundamental part of what it means to be human. We're trusting. That's actually an incredibly good thing. It's incredibly evolutionarily advantageous to trust other people. That's how societies are built. That's how relationships form. That's how we evolve. That's how we move forward. And that's totally fine. And that's actually a really good thing about humanity. After I finished writing the book, I wanted to lock myself in a room and throw away the key. And I thought, people suck. This was my bottom line. The world sucks. Everyone is out to get me. I'm just going to curl up in a ball under this blanket over here and never leave. And if I know you already, great. If I don't know you, sorry, I'm not going to meet you now. And I had to get over it slowly by realizing that actually most people don't suck. There are some bad actors, and yes, you're going to encounter them, and yes, they might even fool you. But if we put up our defenses against them all, that means that we're losing a very fundamental part of what it means to be human beings, and the trade-off isn't worth it. So even though my book is full of terrible stories and terrible things happening, and also pretty funny stories if you don't think about the victims, as soon as you start thinking about the victims, it becomes very sad. But if you just think about the con artists, they're really fun. I know it's terrible. And even though you can come away with it thinking, wow, this is really awful, I hope you come away with it saying, wow, I can still maintain hope and faith in humankind. And in our panel, I'll talk more about the psychology of all of this, but that's just a brief introduction to the book. And I hope that you'll enjoy the rest of the discussion, and I'm really excited for the other guests. We're going to see some magic tonight, I think. Thank you, guys.